And if the W Series can take advantage of that growth of Formula One, especially in America, and obviously they finished their second year. We spoke about how Formula E's growth over 8 years now. How, if the W Series can continue to be tied to the Formula One circuit, as in like tied to the event of the weekend, it's actually in the Grand Prix weekend. Raising the engagement on social media, the popularity, the broadcast figures for those drivers is really, really critical to the growth of the series and the growth of the women in motorsport movement. It's, I think, really key for Formula One. They've been open about it, and I think it's key for the W Series to kind of take advantage of that opportunity. That the W Series is a real part of that growth strategy, and really important that it flows not only to Formula One but to those junior series that are properly integrated and not just a kind of exhibition race, but that the W Series really serves a purpose in the open wheel driver market.
Certainly, I think with W Series there's a clear level of investment in it. I think it wouldn't have, if you compare, say, that first season of W Series when it wasn't even on the Formula One calendar, there was some investment in it, but there wasn't like anywhere stretching the imagination the same level. The fact that they ended the season over in Texas, it was just incredible to see how much it had grown in such a relatively short space of time. I think time will tell how successful it is. I think the hard thing with W Series is the measure of it is always going to be, when do we get the first woman in Formula One again? Far too long. And that's, I think, partially a lot of the pressure that's gone on Jamie Chadwick at the moment, is trying to see whether she'll get up there. I think with her situation, it probably is a bit more difficult. Whether she will get that chance, I don't know. But I think W Series, its actual mark of its success shouldn't just be whether someone gets into Formula One. It should be how many women do we see, both in the engineering roles, the fact that they have these incredible young female engineers throughout their paddock, that their media teams, engineering, strategy, hospitality. The paddock is so full of people that get that level of experience, because ultimately you're not going to get into an F1 paddock if you don't have experience in many of those single-seater junior series. And also getting women into the driving seats in Formula E. Formula E has had female drivers before, has had female team principals, but it needs them back on that grid sooner rather than later. And that'll be the true measure, and how many more women it gets into grassroots motorsports, because you're never going to get a woman in Formula One if you don't get more women and more young girls into karting. Unfortunately, and I hate to say it, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. More men are going to get into Formula One because there are more young boys coming through the ranks. It's a lot harder, and there's a lot of pressure when you're the only woman. I say, when you're the only woman in the room, there's always a lot more focus and pressure on you to perform. And I think that if they can encourage that, I think the Girls on Track movement, the FA Girls on Track movement, does wonderful work in bringing young women into the sport and giving them role models to look at and ways to progress. Because I think oftentimes when you don't have mentors, or you don't come from a background that's worked in the industry, you kind of don't know where to go. Unfortunately, they have that network now and that support there. And I think with W Series, I'm incredibly hopeful and optimistic. And I think the fact that they run their own tests to make sure that hopefully one day with W Series, it will always be based on talent and not sponsorship. The fact that you don't have to bring in sponsorship to race in that series gives it an advantage over the, say, likes of Formula Region and things like that. And I think it slots quite well where it is. It's just now time will tell whether it can kind of complete its mission and how long it'll exist for. I'd see it existing probably for at least the next 10 years.
I think one of those standout stories from the W Series that really shows that it's not only a development ground for young female drivers, but also for people that had a chance maybe when they were younger and weren't able to deliver with that sponsorship package. Someone like Alice Powell, who was able to win Formula Renault championships when she was younger against, it's a mixed series. It's not like she was competing in any subset or anything like that. She was genuinely going out there and beating people that went on to achieve higher, race seats and higher series than she was able to. And because of the budget, she wasn't able to keep competing. And the W Series comes in and gives her that chance to really show her quality again. And she takes it. She takes it really fully. And while Jamie Chadwick was champion of that, I think of last season, Alice Powell, especially at the British Grand Prix weekend, was really kind of it was really awesome to see that there are multiple storylines in the series, not just young female drivers coming through, but that there's so many stories to tell in that category, and that it can play that role at the same time of being for younger female drivers, but also for Alice Powell to come back in and show that quality is still there. And she never left that quality. It was just the sport wasn't in the right place at the right time to deliver what it needed to for her. It's showing that there is a real cost to the approach of the junior series at the moment, that you lose drivers like her, that there is a gap that the W series is filling. I think that was really key to see that kind of that story play out, and really inspirational, I thought, to show that resilience to come back to racing after all of that and show her quality.
Definitely. I think with Alice Powell, unfortunately she was a victim of circumstance, and I think it's quite interesting. She mentors Abby Pulling, and the fact that she was able to jump in that seat after losing her funding for British Formula 3, now she has the opportunity, hopefully, fingers crossed, she's guaranteed an automatic place in W Series for next year, but that she can make that step up at the end of the day. I also think one of the most inspirational people on the W Series grid is Sarah Moore, the first, when she got podium in Austria, the first LGBTQ plus person to be on a podium at a Formula One weekend. And I just remember, as an LGBTQ plus person myself, and seeing the reaction on social media, is how much motorsport has come forward. I think now we're at a pivotal time for equality, diversity and inclusion. Is we need to encourage people from more diverse backgrounds and have those role models, and seeing someone like you that you've never seen before in motorsport standing up there and achieving that success proves that even though the journey is difficult and it's not always going to be easy, that it is possible, and there are opportunities there if you can find them and get that support network. I think that's probably the biggest thing I say to anyone ever wanting to go into anything to do with sport, particularly not just journalism, is a support network is the most valuable thing in the world. Even if they don't like sport themselves, just having that support network to know you can turn to them for advice and have those people that you can rely on ultimately. Because I think there's an interesting dynamic of, if you're coming up through particularly motorsport, you're not just bringing yourself up, you're bringing other people up along with you. So if Jamie Chadwick going through the ranks, when Susie Wolff, when she was reserve driver or test driver at Williams, inspired so many young women. As she went up through the ranks, other young women followed her. I had people following her across the seasons. When I was at the London Prix, I had someone message me to say that they were there and they were inspired to cover the racing as well. And I was thinking, crikey, if I've inspired someone, wow, I can't believe it, because there were people at that event that had inspired me in turn. And so I think it's also that circle of, I don't say circle of life because it feels like I'm ripping off the Lion King, but that kind of circle of life. At the end of the day, you'll ultimately be wanting to bring people up with you. It's a journey that we're all on together to hopefully make the sport a better place.